As we start topic 1 of chapter 4, we're going to look at some of the rules of exponents. And I want you to take a moment to, on the top of the page somewhere, repeat this. So, rules of exponents, the product rule, a to the m times a to the n. Now, if your bases are the same, in the product rule, we just add the exponents. Now, in the powers rule, here we have a to the m, but now in parentheses. All of this is raised to a power. Here, this is multiplication. Now, since they both start with a p, it's kind of hard to separate them. Just have to study and memorize. And students get confused on this toward the end, but again, using your notes and study. Another, the zero exponent. Anything to the zero power is 1. Now you have to keep in mind, if you had a negative a, let me change colors here, a negative a to the 0 power, that's not 1. Now the base is this a, that's 1, but then you need to apply the negative, so this would be a negative 1. That's a little tricky. And again, we reviewed this in our flipped classroom video notes. And then the quotient rule, if you have a fraction a over b, the exponent applies to the numerator and to the denominator. And then we have the negative exponent rule. If it's negative in the numerator, just take it down to the denominator. The exponent crosses the division bar, changes its sign, and it becomes this. And by the way, if you had 1 over a to the negative 1 in the denominator, that would just go up to the numerator as a to the first. And again, we don't write the 1, which is always present by any value. All right, let's get started on some classwork here. All right, we'll have you all work on the first 3 examples, see what you come up with, and then I'll go over them with you. Now, normally we'd put this on our whiteboards, but we don't have them. All right, so x to the second is pretty straightforward. X to the 0 is 1, so this is just x to the second. Now here we have the base is negative 2, that's squared. So this is a 4. This is a negative 2, that's squared. This is another 4. So this is 16. Now we only want positive exponents here. So as this negative 1 comes up, it becomes another. Remember, there's 1 there already. So this would be plus another. So this becomes 5 to the second, which is 25. And I'm sure I'm saying this, but again, if you have a question, be sure you're asking. All right, we're going to give you some time, classwork, to do 4 through 6. See what you come up with. Now you would be putting these on your whiteboard. So let's do this one in part. Here on the top, this is going to be x to the 11th. Then we're going to bring up this negative 5. It becomes a positive 5 on top. So this becomes x to the 16th. Now again, the x is a 1. So this is in a sense 3 times 1 minus 5 times 1. Remember, the zero exponent only applies to the base that's right next to it, not the whole expression. Now, that would differ if it was a negative 5y to the 0. There, your base now is a negative 5y. This would be a 1. But as it is here, the zero exponent only applies to the y. So this is going to be 3 minus 5 is a negative 2. Now, this one you can take in pieces. This is the product rule. So it's a negative 5 squared. That'll be a positive 25. Now there's a 1 there. 1 times 2, x to the second, over 3 times 2 is y to the sixth. And again, be sure you're asking questions if you're not sure of something, but say them slowly and distinctly. Now, for number 7, what is your base? Well, it's everything that is included in the parentheses. So anything to the 0 power is 1. Now, the exception is 0 to the 0 power. That's undefined. Now, I have another rule I want to go over with you, and that is if you have a fraction, let's say a over b, that's to a negative power, there is a rule that we say if you take the reciprocal of what's in the parentheses, that is, put b over a, everything stays the same, we just flip it, then this becomes a positive exponent. All right, so that's another rule. I didn't want to overload you up front. Here we see an example. So let's see if we can make this negative 2 a positive 2. And let's see what you get when you do that. Now, you may have kept 2 to the second when you brought that down, but 2 to the second is 4, so I simplified it a little bit. Now, you recall we said we can also, before we raise it to a power, do any simplification in here. Well, I have n to the third and n to the first. Well, if I bring this n to the first up here and subtract it from that 3, this n down here disappears, and this 3 minus 1 becomes a 2. So now we can't simplify anymore internally. We're now going to raise it to the power. All right, I'll give you a moment, see what you get. All right, this is going to be n to the fourth. Now when we square 4, we get 16. M to the fourth. Okay, so this was a rather short lesson 2. And shortly we'll be going on to 4.3.